Welcome to the Bidwell Presbyterian Church production of the play 12 Angry Women, written and produced by our own senior pastor, the Reverend Dr. B. Denise Welch. As we recognize and celebrate together during this Lenten season, it is necessary for us to take a journey together to the cross. Through the voices of these 12 women who are taken directly from the pages of Scripture, we are asked to think about three important yet very challenging questions. 1, does Jesus have to die? 2, does he have to die by crucifixion? And 3, how does he know he will be resurrected? As we listen to the dialogue, the debate, the self-reflection, and the conversation that these 12 women will have with Jesus, we're also prompted to think about what makes us angry. Is it the pain and loss of disappointment that we push down in our hearts? Is it regret for the mistakes or the sins of the past? Is it anger at failure and unfulfilled dreams? Is the realization that some of us are often judged differently and hated by this world? Or is it anger because of loss and grief that has gripped our hearts and our spirits? No matter the cause of anger, we can hear our own voices in the voices of these 12 women. And as we listen to them, let us think about the power of an encounter with Jesus and how it can transform our disappointment into hope, our fear into faith, our anger into a greater understanding of love, a love that went all the way to the cross to give us everlasting love. Listen to the stories of these 12 women and be encouraged. Grace and peace.
This is too much for me. You all need to put the glasses where the glasses are. Everybody share. Make sure that his glass is on my face. There's none. Oh, there's some right there. Put that okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. That was nice of you.
Wow.
Okay. Mary, you want to hear her talk? Okay. What do we have to talk about?
Every chance you get, you always try for us to have
That's right. Well, thank you.
every time.
Mary, this whole thing is a mistake.
It's not a mistake.
Did you get this?
It's not a mistake.
Mary,
It is not a mistake. You had a choice.
Okay, Mary, you're too bossy, okay? Mary, you always think you're in charge just because he's your son. You always think you're in charge. And he doesn't do what you tell him to do. He does what he wants to do or what he says his father tells him to do.
You think it's the worst thing in the world just because your two sons didn't get what you wanted. They didn't ask for those seats. You did.
Those seats were the least of what he could have did for me. I gave up too much.
Well, it's not about you.
Well, we'll see about that.
Oh, you need to let it go. Just let it go. Let it go.
No,
You need to let it go. Let it go. Oh, quick. Oh, my. Come in. Come in. Quick. Someone get the water and get the towel. Someone get the water.
I
and get
will.
the towel.
I've done it before.
Okay. All right. It appears as if we are not all in agreement about what we have to speak to you about tonight.
Well, maybe we should all just sit down and reason together. I mean, you have apparently called me here to help you work something out.
Well, yes, but what we're in disagreement about is you.
Ooh.
Well, why don't you know? Aren't you supposed to be a prophet? Don't you know everything? You tell us what's going on.
I am so tired of your mouth. Does your tongue have to be so sharp all the time? You need to turn that venom elsewhere. If you just don't understand and don't want to be a part of this, you could just leave.
Is there a problem here?
We know what you're getting ready to do. We know it. We've heard you hint at it. We've heard you put it in parables.
And when you and I were at Simon's house, my alabaster box was filled with burial spices. You told everyone I anointed you for burial. We believe you are headed for death tonight.
Have you heard the rumor, O prophet, that Judas was paid to betray you to your killers? Did you know that?
Nothing.
We know you intend to die. You've spoken of dying and being raised from the dead. We know that tonight you plan on giving your disciples parting words at the Passover. We have reasoned together, and we have discussed this thing, and we have come up with an alternative plan if you must die. You must understand that we love you, each one of us, in her own way. We have considered the alternative because we're not convinced that you have understood how each one of us feels once you have touched us. You have been invited here to hear our stories, to hear our plans, to consider that our plan was conceived in love.
What are you saying?
Jesus, if you must die, why must you be crucified? All of us sitting here, we all know that they're going to crucify you. It only makes sense. What you may not know is they want to kill you publicly to scare people away from your message and to send a signal to everybody else to leave things the way they are. Come on.
But you know,
as one has experienced death and resurrection through my brother, I am not even sure I understand why you have to die at all. But the savagery of crucifixion does not seem necessary to me. Why die if all you're going to do is get up?
just let me
You raised our brother.
But just
You raised him.
After I did all that cooking and hosting of the mourners, after the men wrapped Lazarus' body and cut the stone, I can't believe we did all that for nothing. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy to have my brother back, but he's not the same. And all that work.
But
Wait, he's not the same. He's not the same.
But I did raise him.
Let me finish. He's not the same, and neither am I. I sat at your feet. I left the kitchen and made my sister mad at me because I wasn't there, but I had to be with you. I had to listen to your teaching, and you never made me move. You never made me go back in the kitchen where some people believe I was supposed to be. But now, where am I supposed to go? Where am I supposed to be? I sent you a note that Lazarus was sick. I told you, but you didn't come. And now I had to walk to his grave. And you let me grieve. You let me believe that what I heard you teach was just for some time in the future. And when you got to the grave, you acted like I was supposed to know something that I didn't know. I've never been the same. And if you die, will he die again? Will the miracle wear off if you die? I keep watching him and looking for signs that the miracle will fade, and I'm so nervous and I'm restless and I'm scared. I don't trust time. I'm in doubt about what you said and what you mean and what you do, and now I'm supposed to go back into the kitchen or not in the kitchen. Where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do, especially when you treated me like I was supposed to know something that I simply do not know?
But I did raise him. I gave him back you and to you. I had to show my power over death, over sickness. I had to show you.
What were those tears of yours really about? Why were you crying? People thought you loved him, but you let him die. You let him suffer with sickness, and then you let him die. And I cooked and cooked and cooked my grief into my anger into each dish. But your tears were not in my stew, and they were in my anger. Why is death so important to you? But you didn't see how they were treated afterwards. You didn't stay around long enough to see those men as they crowded around him like he was some sort of exhibit. They stopped believing he was really dead. I never rested after that. I never knew his miracle would run out, if he would drop dead unannounced. I never felt like he would have him very long, and maybe you just raised him long enough so you could die. But if you die, will he die? Why do you have to die? Does this jeopardize all over again my brother's life? Why do you have to die?
I have to die so that I can be an example of my Father's power over death, over sickness, over anything that you will ever go through. I have to die to show that the prophet's words were right and true. I have to die because you can only fight death with death. And when life defeats death, none of you will ever be held by death ever again. And when you come into my kingdom, death cannot come with you. It can only carry you to be with me in my kingdom. My Father has met death with death. I have to die because I have to meet death with something that's greater than itself.
But that only works if there's a resurrection.
And there can be no resurrection if there is no death.
Yes, if there is no death. But does that death have to be a crucifixion?